So just last week, the HBAR Foundation announced the Crypto Economy Fund, and we managed to get Elaine back from the foundation to tell us all about it. Welcome back, Elaine.
Hi, good to be here again.
All right, so we'll dig right into it. But before we get into the Crypto Economy Fund specifically, I've noticed that there's several funds that the HBAR Foundation is launching. Can you go over the general structure and strategy for the foundation in relation to these funds?
Absolutely. So Don put out a great blog, I believe it was a month ago at this point, that really just outlines the goals of the foundation. He was much more eloquent in his blog, but from an operational standpoint, essentially there are four funds that are all aligned in a broad goal of increasing adoption and accelerating growth within the Hedera network. When we were structuring the foundation, we thought it might be a good idea to really focus our funds on specific verticals or use cases that we thought would be important and meaningful, both within our ecosystem, but also in the broader crypto ecosystem as well. And so you see four major funds. The first one that Wes announced, which is the Sustainability Impact Fund, which really deals with a lot of our ESG goals and initiatives. The second is the Crypto Economy Fund, which I lead and which I put out kind of a little bit of insight into what our strategy is. And then we have two other funds, namely the Consumer Engagement Fund that deals with everything metaverse, gaming, NFTs, consumer brands, and also the Payment and FinTech Fund, which deals with how we can manage and make the payment and remittances processes more efficient.
Okay, I gotcha. So back to the Crypto Economy Fund, can you give us a quick overview of what the Crypto Economy Fund is and why it was launched?
Absolutely. So it's one of the four funds of the HBAR Foundation. It has a very kind of initial goal of building and supporting economic behavior on the Hedera network. A lot of people kind of talk about it as like the DeFi fund or kind of like the crypto fund, which is absolutely true. But I like to consider it as just a fund of prerequisites, right? So it's enabling DeFi, all of these financial activities that we think are kind of the first use cases within crypto. It's working on Web3 infrastructure that enables this DeFi, but also things like NFTs, metaverse, ESG payment. So really kind of the crypto infrastructure that the different funds might need. And it's about supporting the growth of native assets and tokens like the HBAR asset, Hedera token service, all the smart contracts, and then really focusing on interoperability, right? So how do we as Hedera see ourselves in a multi-chain world? How do we engage both from a product and a partnership perspective with other ecosystems?
Okay, so to meet those goals, there are four focus areas for the Crypto Economy Fund: build, use, trade, and invest. And I'd like to get into each. So can you tell us about what's included in the build initiative?
Absolutely. So I wanted to take a quick step back and just kind of talk about how we got to the build, use, trade, and invest categories. As we were thinking about the different strategies, I really kind of reflected on my own experience kind of as a consultant and working at within crypto as a whole. And I think one thing that's been really effective in terms of identifying product market fit is this framework called jobs to be done, right? So it's essentially identifying what is the actual job that the consumer needs to be fulfilled? What are consumers hiring to fill this need, right? And so kind of taking a step back and really focusing on more broadly, what is the user experience that we want to enable brought us to the structure of like build, use, trade, and invest. Now, all four of these are all related. None are mutually exclusive, but they provide us a good framework in terms of organizing our thoughts and our strategy with regard to which grants and, initiatives that we want to pursue.
All right, so focusing on the build, what's going to be done in that space?
Yeah, so simply put, the build initiative really is about improving tooling that Web3 founders need to build on Hedera. So at a protocol level, this means like services, features, and integrations with the network that allow for all of the activities in Web3. So things like oracles, indexing, node infrastructure, kind of all of these, what I would call like crypto infrastructure pieces that enable builders to build good products, and also means that these products can be used in a way that the consumer wants. And then from a kind of like more strategic perspective, it also means, like I said before, is structuring the services that the different verticals, whether it's ESG, payments, or consumer engagement, need, right? So things like strong wallets and DAO tooling, fiat on-ramps, all of these things that go into, let's say, a NFT marketplace or a carbon credits marketplace, right? Things that allow these products to be sustainable, but also usable in an easy and secure way.
Okay, I gotcha. So the community has the fact that the HBAR is a utility token pretty much tattooed on their brain. Can you tell us about the crypto economy fund's use focus area?
Yes. So I do think that the word utility is pretty broad. I mean, I'm sure from like a regulatory perspective, it has a very specific meaning. But the way we use it now, right, is very broad. This category really is just a combination of the transact, hold, do, use, that kind of user experience, right? And it really is geared towards answering two questions. One is, what do I need in order to actually do anything with my HBAR or my HTS token, right? And from a structural standpoint, we think about things like custodians, hardware wallets, Web3 wallets, all of these kind of services that allow me to just start with my HBAR, right? The second is, what can I actually do with my HBAR or HTS tokens, right? And so this is where we look at things like micropayments, USDC on Hedera, integrations with platforms like Travala, where I can actually put my HBAR or USDC to work. And then I think, there is the sense of kind of, okay, like, what can I actually do with HBAR? And I think what we're trying to do specifically with this, with this bucket is, yes, acknowledge that HBAR is is the native asset, right? But it probably isn't the best asset to be transacting with, right? So, that's why we're looking at USDC, which is a great stablecoin on Hedera, in addition to supporting the Payment and FinTech Fund in terms of how they are looking at remittances and global payments. And so really it's trying to structure an environment where these types of products can really flourish.
Okay, and the reason why you wouldn't want to transact in HBAR is maybe because it's volatile, or because you want to hodl or something along those lines?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think what we're trying to do really is understand that the protocol itself is structured in a way that's pretty perfect for payments and transaction, right? Being that it's fast, low fees. And so really as a network, Hedera is really well primed to support a bevy of assets that can be used for transaction or utility.
Yeah, and at the top of that list is definitely USDC. So the next one is trade. What ecosystem expansion is planned under trade?
Yeah, so I think the trade use case is probably one that people are most familiar with, right? So how do I actually trade or buy, sell my HBAR? And I think for us, what we really are just focused on is diversifying the markets that are built on Hedera or that use Hedera-based assets so that people have optionality, right? We're not trying to kind of opine on a certain direction or anything like that. We're really just trying to provide diversity of portfolios in terms of what you are trying to do and trade, and in terms of what types of markets you want to engage in. And so I think right now there are two key markets or types of markets that we're focused on. The first is centralized exchange listings. Of course, that's ongoing, right? This year, a key focus being on retail, US, and mobile access. You could argue that, retail US mobile is not necessarily trade, but basically it's just in terms of how do we access HBAR, right, in a market-based structure.
Sure.
And the second is really focusing on decentralized liquidity. So as we announced, we've earmarked $16 million for decentralized liquidity rewards. Basically, this is so that we can focus on things like DEXs and liquidity mining programs.
Okay, I gotcha. So finally, we have the additional growth that's planned for the Invest initiative. Can you go over the Invest one?
Yeah, and this is one I want to talk about most carefully, so just bear with me. The Invest category is the least discrete of the four categories, and it's also the one where we see the most innovation, right? I would argue that crypto investors are very diverse. Not only are there multiple different strategies kind of floating around in the ecosystem, each individual likely has multiple strategies on managing their own investments, right? And I think that type of creativity and flexibility is where we really see the composability of DeFi come into play, right? The fact that smart contracts and DLT allow you to essentially mix and match different products and services so that you can actually achieve your own unique financial goals, right? And so that's what we're trying to support really in the invest category, which is how do we establish product composability on the Hedera network so that builders can both interact with other builders and products and services can kind of stack on top of each other, and also allow consumers to choose their own stack of products and services, right? So basically from a product perspective, how do we build Hedera so that users or consumers can invest in any way they want, right? So it's really about focusing on product composability. And so from a technical perspective, that's kind of the types of grants and focus areas that we're looking at, in addition to from a relationship and a kind of interoperability perspective, how do we go about kind of creating a robust and comprehensive stack of services that people then have flexibility to kind of move throughout.
So I know you probably can't give specific names or projects, but what are some of the things that you're working on through the fund that you're most excited about?
So for me right now, it's really staking. So, as we announced a couple of weeks ago, Stater Labs will be going live with the first staking product on Hedera. It will be a liquid staking pool. So I think that will be really interesting and exciting and necessary for our community. And then we also just had a HIP that was released, I believe last week, that basically talks about how the ecosystem and network is thinking about staking as a whole. And so with these two developments, I really think that the next 2 quarters at least we'll be seeing a lot of interest in staking. And I think it'll be a really great kind of addition to our network.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to be working on a tutorial for the Stater staking. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. So you've covered a lot, Elaine, but I'm sure there's going to be some more questions out there. For anyone that has additional questions on the Crypto Economy Fund, we're going to be hosting a Twitter Spaces AMA with Elaine on Friday, April 8th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So do you have anything else you'd like to pass on in closing?
I think just broadly that we're really excited for the growth on the Hedera network. We're really excited to finally get to share some of our strategies with you. I know you've all been asking to get a better sense of it, so thanks for your patience. And I think that, what I can say is even internally at the foundation, there is a sense of excitement and, I think basically excitement is the best word in terms of all the products that we hopefully can kind of nurture and bring to market. And so, we're really looking forward to this year. We really hope that the work that we're doing is meaningful and is relevant to you all. And so, like I said, and like I always say, please give us your feedback. We are actually always on Twitter, so we have a good sense of what you guys are saying. But we love that and we want to hear more of it.
So a little bit of
and apply for grants. Apply for grants.
Absolutely. So it's a call for action. If anybody has any grants that would fit with the Crypto Economy Fund, please get those in at HBAR Foundation website. I'll put that in the description. And we're excited too, Elaine. So we're looking forward to it. Thanks for stopping by.
Of course.